She grabbed a billionaire's hand to escape her nightmare, not knowing he'd been orchestrating this exact moment for 5 years. The Metropolitan Museum's Temple of Dindor glowed like liquid gold under strategically placed lights. Maya Laurent's burgundy gown, a vintage Halston she'd found at a consignment shop, felt like armor tonight. But armor wasn't enough when she spotted him. Marcus, her ex-husband, moving through the crowd with that shark-like grace that used to make her pulse race. Now, it just made her sick. The restraining order had expired. He knew it. She knew it. And judging by the way he locked eyes with her across the Egyptian antiquities, he'd come here specifically for her. Maya's champagne glass trembled. Marcus was 20 feet away. 15. His smile was pure venom wrapped in Armani. She backed up and collided with a wall of muscle. Careful. The voice was deep, controlled, with an undertone of command that made something in her chest flutter and clench simultaneously. Maya turned. The man before her looked like he'd been carved from marble by an artist who understood power. 6'3", broad shoulders that filled out his Tom Ford tuxedo perfectly. Dark hair with silver threading through it, despite appearing to only be in his late 30s. But it was his eyes that stopped her breath. Pale blue, almost arctic, and fixed on her with an intensity that should have terrified her. Instead, she felt seen. "I'm sorry, Maya glanced back. Marcus was 10 feet away now. Without thinking, driven by pure survival instinct, she grabbed the stranger's hand. "Please," she whispered urgently, "my ex-husband. Please just pretend you know me." The man's expression shifted. Surprise flickered across his chiseled features, then something deeper. Something that looked like wonder, mixed with pain. His hand turned, fingers interlacing with hers as though they'd done this 1,000 times before. As though he'd been waiting his entire life for her to reach for him. "There you are, darling," he said smoothly, his voice carrying just enough for nearby guests to hear. "I was beginning to think you'd gotten lost among the pharaohs." Relief crashed over Maya like a wave. The stranger, her savior, pulled her closer, his body creating an impenetrable shield between her and the rest of the world. "Thank you," she breathed, looking up at him. "Is he the tall one?" he asked quietly, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. Maya's eyes widened. "How did you—" "I recognize predators." His voice was steel wrapped in silk. "You're safe now. I promise you that." "Maya!" Marcus's voice sliced through her moment of security like a blade. She turned, the stranger's hand still firmly holding hers. His thumb made small, soothing circles on her skin, an intimacy that felt both foreign and achingly familiar. Marcus stood there wearing his public mask, the successful venture capitalist everyone adored. But Maya could see the fury in his dark eyes as they assessed the man beside her. "Marcus," she managed, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. The stranger's presence was like having a fortress at her back. "And who's this?" Marcus's smile was tight, dangerous. "Dominic Cross." The stranger extended his free hand with absolute confidence. Maya noticed how he positioned himself slightly in front of her, protective but not controlling. Maya's boyfriend. The word sent electricity through her chest despite the circumstances. Maya nearly gasped. Dominic Cross. The Dominic Cross, the tech genius who'd revolutionized cybersecurity and built a $10 billion empire before 40. The man who was so private that Forbes called him the ghost billionaire. And he was claiming to be her boyfriend. Marcus's handshake was aggressive, a dominance display. Dominic didn't even blink. His grip was firm, unwavering, his expression almost amused. Boyfriend, Marcus repeated, his mask cracking slightly. How convenient. We've only been divorced 11 months, Maya. Sometimes, when you meet the right person, Dominic said, easily, and Maya could have sworn she heard genuine emotion in his voice. Timing becomes irrelevant. He squeezed her hand gently. Isn't that right? Maya looked up at him, and something in his pale blue eyes made her breath catch. There was an intensity there that went beyond playing a role. Something raw and real and almost desperate. Yes, she said, finding courage in his unwavering gaze. Marcus's jaw clenched, a tell Maya remembered too well. He was furious. But with Dominic beside her, tall and utterly unshakable, Marcus couldn't deploy his usual tactics. Well, Marcus said after a tense beat, how fortunate for you, Maya. We should catch up sometime. I've been trying to reach you. That won't be necessary, Dominic interrupted smoothly, and there was steel in his pleasant tone now. Maya's made it quite clear she's moved forward. Perhaps you should do the same. I wasn't talking to you, Marcus snapped. No, Dominic agreed, his voice dropping to something dangerously calm. You were attempting to pressure my girlfriend at a charity function. That ends now. The two men faced each other. Maya watched something pass between them, a silent battle of wills. Dominic was taller, broader, and there was something in his quiet confidence that made Marcus take an involuntary step back. This isn't over, Maya, Marcus said, his voice low and menacing. We have unfinished business. The only unfinished thing here, Dominic said, each word precise and cutting, is your inability to accept reality. I suggest you work on that elsewhere. For a moment, Maya thought Marcus might cause a scene, but then he noticed several guests watching with interest, and Marcus always cared about appearances. He left. Maya's knees nearly buckled with relief. Dominic guided her through the crowd, his hand never leaving her waist until they reached a private terrace overlooking Central Park. The November air was sharp and cleansing. I'm so sorry, Maya said immediately, pulling away slightly to look up at him. I shouldn't have grabbed you like that. I just panicked and you were there and... Hey. Dominic turned to face her fully, his hands coming up to gently grip her shoulders. You don't need to apologize. Not to me. Not ever. Are you all right? I just used a complete stranger as a human shield against my ex-husband. I don't think all right covers it. We're not complete strangers, Dominic said, and something in his tone made her look up sharply. There was a softness in his Arctic eyes, a tenderness that seemed to go beyond simple kindness. I'm Dominic, you're Maya, and according to recent developments, we're dating now. Despite everything, she felt her lips curve into an almost smile. That's what you're focusing on, our fake relationship status. If I'm going to be a convincing boyfriend, Dominic said, his mouth quirking up at the corner, I should probably know the basics. Coffee preferences seem like a good start. Oat milk latte, extra shot. I survive on caffeine and architectural deadlines. Architect? Dominic's eyes lit up, genuinely lit up. I noticed you earlier, actually. You were studying the auction catalog like you were analyzing structural integrity rather than just admiring art. The thought that he noticed her before the incident sent an unexpected flutter through Maya's chest. "And you?" she asked, trying to steady her racing heart. "What does Dominic Cross do when he's not rescuing panicked women at charity galas?" "Try to build things that matter," he said simply. "Leave the world a little better than I found it." Then, more quietly, almost to himself, "Try to be worthy of the people who inspire me." There was something in the way he said it, in the way he was looking at her, that made Maya's pulse quicken. Before we continue, if you believe no one should be controlled or manipulated like Maya was, hit that subscribe button. People like Marcus thrive in silence. Don't let them win. Dominic insisted on driving her home. A sleek black Aston Martin appeared within minutes, but instead of a driver, Dominic opened the door himself. As they drove through Manhattan's glittering streets, Maya found herself opening up, talking about her passion for sustainable architecture, her current project, a low-income housing complex in Brooklyn that integrated community spaces and green technology. "Architecture isn't just about buildings," she said, her hands gesturing animatedly. "It's about creating possibility, taking empty space and imagining what could be. It's hope made concrete, literally." When she glanced at Dominic, she found him watching her with such intensity that she faltered mid-sentence. "What?" she asked. "Nothing," he said softly. "Just, you light up when you talk about your work. It's beautiful." The compliment, said so sincerely, made warmth bloom in her chest. "You really care about this project, the housing complex in Brooklyn," Dominic observed. "I do. It's not glamorous work. There's no prestige in public housing, but these are families who deserve beautiful spaces too. They deserve architecture that respects them, that gives them dignity." She looked out the window. "We were struggling for funding for months. Then someone made an anonymous donation. Huge, game-changing. We were able to add community gardens on the rooftops, solar panels, a real playground. It was like someone heard me pray about it and just made it happen." She missed the way Dominic's hands tightened on the steering wheel, the way his jaw clenched with emotion. The car pulled up to her Brooklyn brownstone, a converted walk-up with character and good bones. Dominic got out first, coming around to open her door with old-fashioned manners that made her stomach flutter. "Thank you," Maya said, as they stood on the sidewalk, not quite ready to say goodbye. "For everything tonight. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been there." "You would have handled it," Dominic said firmly, stepping closer. "You're stronger than you realize, Maya Laurent. You survived 3 years with a man like that and still came out with your spirit intact and your passion alive. That takes incredible strength." The way he said her name, like it meant something, like he'd said it before in his thoughts, made her pulse race. "Could I—" she started, then stopped. What was she doing? She'd just used this man as a shield against her ex-husband. She had no business asking for anything more. "Yes?" Dominic prompted gently. "Could I buy you coffee sometime to thank you properly? I promise not to grab your hand and claim you're my boyfriend without permission." Dominic's smile transformed his entire face, making him look younger, less guarded. devastatingly handsome. "I'd like that very much," he said. "But let me buy. Boyfriends should know more than just coffee orders after all." She laughed, genuinely laughed for the first time in months. "You don't have to keep up the pretense," she said softly. "Who says it's a pretense?" Dominic said, and there was something in his eyes that made her breath catch. He pulled out his phone. "Your number." She gave it to him with trembling fingers, watching as he saved it with meticulous care. "I'll text you tomorrow," he promised. Then, more softly, "And Maya, if Marcus bothers you again, day or night, you call me. Promise me." "You barely know me," she whispered. Dominic's expression was intense, almost pained. "I know enough." Then, so quietly, she almost missed it. "More than you realize." The next afternoon, they met at a small cafe in Tribeca with exposed brick and the rich aroma of freshly roasted beans. Dominic was already there when she arrived, and Maya watched him for a moment before he noticed her. The way he straightened his already perfect tie, the way he ran a hand through his hair, the nervous energy that seemed so at odds with his usual unshakable composure. Then he saw her, and his entire face transformed. "You came," he said, sounding genuinely relieved as he stood. "You sound surprised." "A little," Dominic admitted, pulling out her chair before taking his own seat. "I thought you might reconsider in the light of day. Last night was intense." 2 hours vanished like minutes. They talked about everything: architecture and technology, the isolation of success, the weight of others' expectations. Maya found herself sharing things she'd never told anyone. Her childhood dream of designing homes for people who'd never had one. Her fear that Marcus had broken something in her that couldn't be fixed. "He didn't," Dominic said fiercely, reaching across the table to take her hand. "You're not broken, Maya. You're healing. There's a difference." "How are you so sure?" she whispered. "Because I've been watching broken people try to function for years, in boardrooms, in mirrors. You're not that. You're someone who survived and kept your heart intact. That's not broken. That's extraordinary." As the cafe prepared to close, Dominic walked her to the subway. "I don't want this to end," Maya admitted, then immediately regretted the vulnerability. "It doesn't have to," Dominic said. He hesitated, seeming to wrestle with something. "Have dinner with me. Tomorrow night. Let me take you somewhere beautiful." "Like a real date?" Maya asked, her heart racing. "Like the first of many," and Dominic said, and the certainty in his voice should have terrified her. Instead, it made her feel anchored. Over the next 3 weeks, Maya fell. Not carefully, not slowly, but completely. Dominic was unlike anyone she'd ever known. Attentive without being suffocating. Protective without being controlling. He listened like her words were precious. Remembered details she'd forgotten sharing. Showed up with oat milk lattes on mornings when her project deadlines loomed. But there were oddities. He knew her favorite breakfast spot in Brooklyn before she'd mentioned it. He'd read not just articles about her work, but her actual thesis from grad school. "How did you even find that?" She'd laughed, and he'd said, "I'm thorough." But something flickered in his eyes. And then there was the apartment. 6 weeks into whatever they were, dating felt too simple, too mundane for the intensity between them. Dominic invited her to his place, a penthouse in Tribeca with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson. It was beautiful, minimalist, perfect. Too perfect. Maya wandered while Dominic opened wine in the kitchen, and that's when she saw it. Her Brooklyn housing project. Not a photo. A scale model. Exquisitely detailed, clearly custom-made, sitting on a shelf in his office. "Dominic," she called out, her voice strange. "Why do you have a model of my building?" He appeared in the doorway, wine forgotten, and the expression on his face was pure devastation. "Maya, this is custom work," she said, her architect's eye taking in the details. "This took months to create. When did you commission this?" Dominic was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw. 5 years ago." The room tilted. "What?" "I need to tell you something," Dominic said quietly, moving slowly into the office like he was approaching a frightened animal. "And you're going to be angry. You have every right to be, but please, please let me explain." Maya's heart was pounding. "What?" Dominic took a breath. 5 years ago, I was judging a competition, the Reinhardt Prize for Young Architects. You were a finalist." Maya remembered. She'd placed third. It had been devastating. She'd needed that prize money desperately, needed the recognition. It had been during the worst of her marriage to Marcus, when he'd been systematically destroying her confidence, isolating her from colleagues. "You gave a presentation," Dominic continued, his voice almost reverent, "about architecture's social justice, about how design could dignify instead of degrade. And you were magnetic, brilliant, on fire with passion." He stepped closer, and Maya saw that his hands were shaking. "I fell in love with you that day, Maya. Completely. Irrevocably. If you think obsession disguised as love is dangerous, comment 'Love requires honesty.' Let's talk about where the line is." "You... what?" Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "I know how that sounds," Dominic said quickly. "Believe me, I know. But Maya, after that presentation, I couldn't stop thinking about you. So I did what I do. I researched. I learned everything I could. Your projects, your philosophy, your background." "That's called stalking," Maya said, but her voice shook. "I know." Dominic's face was anguished. "I know. And I stayed away. I swear to you, I stayed away. Because I also learned you were married. And as much as it killed me, I respected that. I never approached you, never contacted you. I followed your career from a distance." "The anonymous donation? The Brooklyn housing complex. That was you." "Yes." "How much?" $3 million. Maya sat down heavily on his leather sofa. "Oh my God." "When I learned you'd filed for a divorce," Dominic continued, and now his voice was gaining strength, conviction, I wanted to reach out immediately, but I knew you'd need time, need space to heal. So I waited. I gave you a full year, Maya. A year of watching from the sidelines, of seeing Marcus circle you like a predator, and wanting desperately to protect you, but knowing I had no right. The gala, Maya said slowly, pieces clicking into place. You were there because I knew you'd be there. Because Marcus had been escalating, and I was terrified he'd corner you. I wasn't going to approach you. I swear I wasn't. I was just going to be nearby, in case you needed help. And then you grabbed my hand. And then you grabbed my hand, Dominic echoed, and a small, painful smile crossed his face. And it felt like every prayer I'd ever whispered had been answered. Like 5 years of waiting, of patience, of hoping, it all came down to that one perfect moment when you reached for me. Maya's head was spinning. This is insane. This is... Dominic, this is crazy. I know. He moved closer, dropping to his knees in front of her so they were eye level. I know it sounds insane. Obsessive. Wrong. And maybe it is. But Maya, every moment we've spent together these past 6 weeks, that wasn't manipulation. That wasn't some calculated plan. That was real. That was me finally getting to know the woman I've been in love with from a distance. And she's even more extraordinary than I imagined. You've been controlling this entire thing, Maya said, and she hated how her voice cracked. No, Dominic said fiercely. I supported one project anonymously, something I do for dozens of architects. I showed up to one event where I hoped you'd be safe. But everything else, the coffee dates, the dinners until 3 a.m., the way you make me laugh, the way I make you feel safe, that's not orchestration. That's connection. That's real. How can I trust that? Maya whispered, tears streaming down her face. How can I trust anything when you've been hiding this enormous secret? When you've been, studying me like a project for 5 years? You can't, Dominic said simply, and the raw honesty in his voice made her look up. I've broken your trust before we even fully built it, and I take full responsibility for that. But Maya, I need you to understand something. He reached out slowly, telegraphing the movement, and gently cupped her face in his hands. I didn't plan to fall in love with you over these past 6 weeks. I already was in love with you. But the woman I've gotten to know, the real you, not the idea I'd built up, she's better than any fantasy. She's funnier, more stubborn, more brilliant, more kind. You make terrible puns about load-bearing walls. You cry at dog adoption commercials. You eat ice cream for breakfast when deadlines loom. Despite herself, Maya felt a laugh bubble up through her tears. I'm not asking you to forgive me, not immediately, but I'm asking you not to walk away. Give me a chance to earn your trust properly, transparently. No more secrets, no more hiding, just us, figuring this out together. Maya pulled away from his touch, standing and moving to the window. The city glittered below, full of possibilities and pitfalls. I need time, she said finally. I can't process this right now. Of course, Dominic said immediately, rising. Take all the time you need. I'll drive you home. No, Maya said. I need to go alone. I need to think. The devastation on Dominic's face was almost painful to witness, but he nodded. I understand. At the door, Maya paused. Dominic. Yes? Did you ever think that maybe the woman you fell in love with 5 years ago doesn't exist anymore? That Marcus changed me too much? Dominic met her eyes, and the intensity there stole her breath. I think the woman I fell in love with 5 years ago is the same woman who survived Marcus and came out stronger. I think she's standing in front of me right now, trying to decide if a man who waited 5 years for her is worth a chance. And whatever you decide, Maya, I'll respect it, even if it kills me.
Maya didn't call for 3 days. She spent those days in her apartment, alternating between fury at Dominic's deception and a traitorous warmth when she remembered the way he looked at her. She researched him obsessively, looking for evidence that he was dangerous, controlling, another Marcus. Instead, she found articles about his philanthropic work, his company's ethical practices, the way he'd revolutionized cybersecurity specifically to protect vulnerable people's data. Employees who spoke of him with genuine affection, not fear. She found nothing that suggested danger, but she found plenty that suggested a man who was patient to the point of pain, who believed in doing things right, even if it took years. On the 4th day, Marcus showed up at her apartment. "How did you get past security?" Maya demanded through the chain lock. "I told them I was your ex-husband checking on you," Marcus said with that smile she'd once found charming. "People are so helpful when you seem concerned." "Leave, Marcus, now." "I know about your billionaire boyfriend," Marcus said, and there was poison in his voice. "I did some digging. Did you know he's been watching you for years? That he's got some kind of sick obsession with you?" Maya's blood ran cold. "How do you know that?" "I hired a private investigator," Marcus said smugly. "Cross has been tracking your career, your projects. He's probably got cameras in your apartment, Maya. He's dangerous." "Says the man who used to check my phone every night, who isolated me from every friend I had, who made me feel crazy for 3 years. I was protecting you." "Get out," Maya said, and there was steel in her voice now. "Get out, or I'm calling the police. And Marcus, if you come near me again, I'll file for a new restraining order, and this time, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly why I need one." Dominic stood in her doorway, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "Marcus was just here," Maya said. "He hired a PI. He knows about everything." Dominic's expression turned murderous. "Did he threaten you? Touch you?" "No, I handled it." Maya stepped back, letting him in. "But he said something that made me think." "What?" "He called you manipulative. Said you've been controlling everything." Maya wrapped her arms around herself. "And the thing is, Dominic, he's partially right. You have been controlling parts of this. The donation, showing up at the gala. You've been managing circumstances." "I know," Dominic said quietly, "and I can't apologize enough." "But," Maya interrupted, "there's a difference between you and Marcus that I finally understand." She stepped closer, and Dominic held very still, like he was afraid to breathe. "Marcus controlled me to keep me small, to keep me dependent and scared. Every action he took was about diminishing me. But you?" She reached out, placing her hand over his heart. "Everything you did was about giving me space to grow.
You funded my project, not to control it, but to let it exist. You stayed away for a year to give me time to heal. You told me the truth, even though you knew it might drive me away. Maya, Dominic's voice broke. I'm not saying what you did was perfect, Maya said firmly. It wasn't. It was obsessive and intense and probably a little crazy. But I've been thinking about it, and I realized something. You didn't fall in love with a version of me that serves you. You fell in love with the version of me that I was always trying to become. Tears were streaming down Dominic's face now, and Maya reached up to brush them away. You saw the best in me before I could see it in myself, she whispered. And maybe that's not healthy. Maybe it's not normal. But Dominic, nothing about my life has been normal. I've been broken and rebuilt. I've been diminished and destroyed. And what I need now isn't normal. What I need is someone who believes in me even when I can't believe in myself. I do, Dominic said fervently, his hands coming up to frame her face. God, Maya, I believe in you more than I believe in anything else in this world. Then prove it, Maya said firmly. No more secrets. No more managing things from behind the scenes. We're partners or we're nothing. Equal, honest, real. Yes, Dominic breathed. Anything, everything, I swear to you. Maya smiled then, and it felt like the sun breaking through clouds. Then kiss me, Dominic Cross. Kiss me like you've been waiting 5 years to do it. He did. And it was perfect. If you believe real love means radical honesty, even when it's messy, comment truth over comfort. We need more people who understand that. The Brooklyn housing complex's grand opening was everything Maya had dreamed. Children played in the rooftop gardens while families explored their new homes. Local news covered the innovative design. Her firm's reputation had skyrocketed. And through it all, Dominic stood beside her. Not in front, not behind, but beside her, supporting, celebrating, loving. You did this, he said, as they watched the sunset from the rooftop, his arm around her waist. We did this, Maya corrected. Your donation made it possible. Your vision made it beautiful, Dominic countered, then more softly. Thank you. For what? For grabbing my hand that night, for trusting me even when I didn't deserve it, for being exactly who I always believed you were. Maya turned in his arms, looking up at this man who'd waited years for her, who loved her from a distance and up close with the same fierce devotion. You know what's funny? What? Marcus was wrong about a lot of things, but he was right about one. You are obsessed with me. Dominic's smile was equal parts sheepish and unrepentant. Guilty. Good, Maya said, pulling him down for a kiss. Because I'm obsessed with you too. And I think maybe I have been since the moment you said careful and I looked up into those blue eyes. So we're both crazy, Dominic murmured against her lips. Completely, Maya agreed. But at least we're crazy together. As the sun set over Brooklyn, casting golden light over the building that represented Maya's dreams and Dominic's faith in her, they stood together. Two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way. She'd grabbed his hand in desperation. He'd been waiting for that moment for 5 years. And somehow, impossibly, It had led them exactly where they both needed to be. Home. Sometimes the hand you grab in desperation belongs to the person who's been waiting a lifetime to catch you. And sometimes the most beautiful love stories are the ones that were 5 years in the making, even if you only just met them.